Cowboys defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer had a lot to say about Sam Williams being injured on the radio today, but he also revealed indirectly a whole lot about what they're thinking about Micah Parsons. So we'll get into that, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network, and catching up with each other Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with quick-hitting videos such as this one. No practice on Monday for the Dallas Cowboys. On Tuesday, the Pats will come on, so we probably will have a lot more to talk about. I've seen the CeeDee Lamb rumors, but there is no reliable reporter yet saying anything on it, so we'll wait on that and instead talk about what Mike Zimmer had to say about Sam Williams' injury on the radio, which was a quote, in my opinion, because, a real important quote is what I'm trying to say, because he revealed, I don't know if it was inadvertently or not, a lot about what they're thinking with Micah Parsons. And obviously, we dived into the injury for Sam Williams more in depth on Sunday night. In case you want to go check that out, you can do so by going into the channel. We talked about potential replacements off of free agency. We talked about what it meant for the team, what it meant for Williams, what it meant for Marshawn Neiland. But we also touched on what this means for Micah Parsons. And that's what Mike Zimmer's quote honestly revolves around to me, because he's talking about Sam Williams' injury, but he drops a number that seemed very significant to me. And I'll show you right now what I'm talking about. So he went on 96.7 the ticket on Monday, and he said the following. You can watch the quote on screen, but I'll read it for everyone in the podcast audience as well. We had big plans for Sam Williams. He was going to play an awful lot. Probably, I'm guessing 70% of the time. It will be a big loss. Before I move any further, guys, 75% snap count for Sam Williams would have been a whole lot. I'm going to put this into context very quickly for you. Dorrance Armstrong, who was the top Cowboys defensive end backup off the bench last year for the Cowboys, played in only 42% of the defensive snaps. So right off the get-go, this means that the Cowboys are, or were before the Sam Williams injury, planning to play Micah Parsons at off-ball linebacker, perhaps more than many of us would have imagined. More on that later. The quote continues, with us moving Parsons around a little bit, he was going to be out there with Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, talking about Sam Williams' steal. And then he adds, but Marshawn Neiland, the Cowboys' second-round draft pick, has done a really nice job. He would have played anyway, but I think he's going to end up having to play a lot now. So much to unpack there. But mainly, to me, it's that number that Mike Zimmer was expecting for Sam Williams. Obviously, at face value, one of the things that you think about is, damn, that sucks for Sam Williams even more than we had thought about on Sunday night when we talked about his injury. Because 70 to 75% snaps is not a backup you're talking about at that point. You're talking about a full-time starter for your Cowboys defense. And that's what Williams would have been had these been the numbers for him. There's a lot of factors going into that projection for Mike Zimmer, which is rendered somewhat useless now that he's out for the season, but it still tells you a lot about what they're thinking regarding Micah Parsons. But first, one of the big things that you think about right away is that, it would have been great for Sam Williams to have that amount of playing time. But also, it tells you, a lot of factors going into that number, and one of them being that before, like in 2023, you had Armstrong, but you also had Dante Fowler Jr., and you had Sam Williams himself, and the snaps were just being distributed among those three pretty, I don't want to say evenly, but a lot of the snaps were going to either of those three. Going into 2024, though, experience-wise, it was just Sam Williams. Like everyone else, and we've gone over this, we did this on Sunday night, but everyone else lacks NFL experience when you look at the Cowboys' defensive end room, right? Between Fehoko, Tyrus Wett, Darrell Johnson, Marshawn Neiland, and Byron Vaughns, you've got 31 combined defensive snaps, all of which belong to Tyrus Wett. And not even all of those were played at the defensive line because he played some off-ball linebacker snaps as well. So maybe Mike Zimmer was thinking, hey, we're going to be rotating a whole lot, but Williams is essentially going to take all of the defensive end backup snaps, right? He's going to take all of those, and then maybe Neiland is going to pick up some slack, but that's about it, right? Like there was not going to be a whole lot of rotation like in previous years with Dan Quinn, which is somewhat understandable if that is the case. Now, with that being said, though, I think the big takeaway from Mike Zimmer's quote is that, and we've talked about this and we've debated it, Micah Parsons' usage at linebacker might be more serious than, for example, I would have thought of. Now, for those of you who are new to the show here on Primetime, I am somewhat against Micah Parsons being used as an off-ball linebacker because I really value what he does at the defensive line. I really value what he does as a pass rusher. And to me, the logic surrounding the whole idea of being less predictable and all that, to me, it somewhat dies because at first and second down is not what it used to be. Teams are passing the football on first and second down much more than before. Overall, NFL teams are throwing the football 60% of the time, including every single down. So to me, I would much rather have Micah doing what has gotten him in 3 years of his career into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation rather than removing him from that spot and losing that value. And also because I do think I would much rather have an elite pass rusher than an elite linebacker. 10 days out of 10, I will make that statement. So I'm coming to you from that point of view and that perspective. You're more than welcome to disagree. What I'm going to say now is that regardless of my opinion or your opinion, the Cowboys seem to be totally serious about this. Because my main question was, is this going to be one of those matchup things where perhaps Micah is going to be a full-time pass rusher, but in week 7, they're going to face this particular team that is going to want to run the football on them, and maybe then Micah is moved to off-ball linebacker to play better defensive ends, be more sound versus the run, and maybe get those kind of answers. That was my kind of like, I don't want to say theory, but I was wondering if it was going to be something like that, or if it was going to be Micah is going to play first and second down off ball, and then on third down, he's going to rush the passer. What exactly is it going to be? Because Micah, I can guarantee you, he's going to want to rush the passer more than anything else because of what that represents for him financially down the road. We might also be at a spot where that doesn't matter, right? Where Micah is going to get paid regardless because teams know what he can do. And if the numbers go down, then teams are going to know why they went down. It's going to be because the Cowboys decided to use him on a different capacity. Now, with all of that out of the way, this quote tells you directly the plan is serious. Like the rotation for Micah Parsons is serious. Now the question becomes, though, how does Sam Williams' injury affect this? Because Mike Zimmer can get on the mic and say what he says at the end here about Marshawn Neiland ending up having to play a lot now. One thing is for him to go out there and say that. The other is for you to be as confident in that plan as you were with Sam Williams, who you already know more about, who is in his third year or was going into his third year in the NFL, and you know what you've got on him. And maybe the Cowboys could have more easily said, I'm confident in doing this with Micah because I'm confident in what Sam Williams can do at defensive end. Now with Marshawn Neiland, it's totally different. And I'm excited about Neiland, right? We've gone over that time and time again here on the show. But to what point is it unfair to set those kind of expectations for him as a rookie, where you're essentially asking him to be a starting defensive end in the NFL right away just because you want to move Micah Parsons around? It might not work that way. And I would argue that whoever you bring off of the streets, right, because the Cowboys might be looking at signing somebody, defensive end-wise. I cannot remember who it was, but somebody reported in the Cowboys media that the Cowboys were looking into some veteran defensive ends already. No visits, no scheduled workouts yet, but they're reportedly looking into making some free agency moves after the Sam Williams injury. Whether you sign somebody or whether you're talking about Marshawn Nyland or a combination of both, there's no way you're as confident in that as you were in Sam Williams. So your plan has to change a little bit. And I would be of the opinion that if the Cowboys wanted Micah Parsons to play, and I'm just going to make up a random number now, 50% of the playing time, of his playing time at off-ball linebacker, I would assume that he's going to be taken down a notch. Maybe all the way down to 30%. And again, these are made-up numbers, but just proportionately. I would expect the Cowboys' linebacker plans for Micah Parsons to significantly decrease after what happened with Sam Williams, just because there's no way you just go on with it because you really want to do this. Like, you got to think about your personnel, and I do think the Cowboys' defensive end room is extremely thin at this point after the Sam Williams injury. There's basically only Marshawn Nyland that you can bet on, and it's not a good look, in my opinion, if you remove Micah Parsons from that equation that much. I get wanting to do some of it. I get wanting to be unpredictable and maybe having those more expanded looks at Micah Parsons, maybe walking down to the line of scrimmage, right? Maybe rushing over the middle, getting those easy matchups. But it's going to be a tough kind of decision there for Mike Zimmer and company, because they might have to go back in what they were planning and readjust before the season starts. So let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree that the Sam Williams injury directly impacts what the Cowboys want to do with Micah Parsons? This quote was massive to me because as somebody that isn't really that much into the linebacker thing for Micah Parsons, this was really eye-opening in the sense that they were totally serious about it, probably still are, and now I'm wondering how much is that going to change with Sam Williams out for the year. Let me know what you think in the chat, though, and I'll see you very soon here on Primetime Thursday. We'll be live Thursday at 8 p.m. Bye-bye. Gotta hate that Sam Williams went down injured. That's life in the NFL.